are the Jeff Cameron Show, at least for this Balls McWednesday. The bonus hour is underway. I'm Jeff. That is Tom. You're still here. That's cool. Thanks. Appreciate that. Cheers. Cheers. You know, Tom, I was just thinking, the more that I looked at you and I talked yesterday, and certainly me and the fellas talked about it as well on headlines. Then I drove around yesterday and thought more about it regarding the schedule, FSU's schedule. And I realized, and I guess I kind of realized when I was hinting at the fact that having 2 Friday games is less than ideal. You know, here's the thing. I got a text from my wife yesterday who said, just saw the Florida State schedule. Kind of weird. Got a couple Friday games this year. I wrote back, yeah, makes us look small. She wrote back, yeah, I wonder if coach is embarrassed. I said, well, babe, he's got more issues to worry about. But then per that text exchange, I started thinking a little bit more about it. And I realized, of course, that the ACC, where it ranks and what it has to put up with now, and the network ESPN that has the relationship with the SEC, and kind of the way, I don't know, the mounting frustrations that I have that we are going to be in this trash ass conference for seemingly at least another year. And, look, you're likely playing that Stanford game at 10 p.m., which is an embarrassment as well. You get to go to Raleigh on 6 days rest, which is not cool. And I guess I was reminded of the fact that we're going to get bent over by a conference who we spent 18 months pissing off. And it seems fairly evident that Florida State is in no place to get any kind of preferential treatment.
Yeah, well, look, this past year's schedule was on a platter. If we were decent, if we were good, if we were 80% of what we thought we were going to be. Things laid out very nicely. The bye weeks were spread out.
Yeah, they gave gifts. Yeah,
they did. And what did? We won 1 conference game. So, if they don't look out for our best interest, I understand it. This is a cold-blooded business. Before you get into legalities and pissing off the league office and anything like that, hey, man, there are 3 or 4 teams at minimum who have a better chance to do more with a favorable schedule than Florida State. And so you're going to have moments like that on the docket. However, I would say the Friday night thing is more about the league itself, to your point, than it is about
it's a trash ass league that's getting second class citizen status. Yes.
So, for example, we travel to Clemson on Saturday, November the 8th. They play the next Friday night at Louisville. They play a Friday game on the 14th of November after hosting us, and they go to Louisville, who has a chance to, go to Charlotte and play for the conference title. I'm sure they're thrilled about that. I mean, that's just insane. So if I'm Clemson and I'm saying, we just won the damn league.
It's about the ACC. Like they don't get prime positioning in any way. It's just a sorry league. It is becoming more and more apparent. You're not deemed all that important, and you're going to have to fight for good time slots and try to get as many eyes on sets as possible. But it's just a reminder, the longer we stay in this sorry ass league, the worse things are going to get.
Well, and Saturday is the day where you would think there'd be some sort of announcement, but I'm wondering if they're just not going to say a damn thing. And we're going to get to Valentine's Day, we're going to get to St. Patrick's Day, we're going to get to April Fool's Day, and we're going to wonder, guys, what's the deal? Did they exercise the option? Because January 31st is just this Friday. So I agree. Yeah, you don't get prime time slots. The ratings don't bear it out that you should. That's the other part of it here. If, you've got a couple of products that are decent, but you don't. I mean, Florida State right now is watching a car wreck. That does get you some numbers, but it doesn't get you great numbers, especially when you've got, a lot of games that have more playoff potential these days. When you have more seeds to hand out, Now your South Carolina Ole Miss game matters all the more than it used to. And so they're gonna pump those mid-level SEC games because those actually have playoff implications in an October and a November.
Yeah, but the problem is, though, Tom, even if we were operating at peak efficiency, we wouldn't be getting the times. Even if we were kicking ass. We're not getting times. We're in a second-class league. They don't care. They're not going to push us. They're going to push those middling SEC teams, as you just stated, whether we're 2-10 or 10-2. It doesn't matter.
This is true. I'm just saying that if we were operating at peak and we had a battle with Miami or Clemson, they're going to find some time for Florida State, Miami, Florida State, Clemson to be in a prime slot of some kind. But we're giving them the excuse that they want, which is, well, I mean, you got nothing here. What are we going to do? Clemson, Louisville. Let's stick it on a Friday night. Clemson, Florida State. I mean, we might put it at 8 if the competing network has an 8 o'clock primetime game that we just want to capture a couple of viewers, but it's not considered the epicenter of the sport the way that game has been many times over the last 15 years. Same thing with Florida State, Miami over the last 25, 30 years. It's
going to continue to get worse and worse. It's just all the more that you've got. I don't know. I don't know if we entered it into this with the thought that we could get this done and that Florida State could be out of this league in a relatively timely fashion. It's not feeling that way. And it's another year, and I'm beginning to feel the weight of what it's like to be stuck in a league that is getting passed over. And it's only going to get worse. This is a desperate year for Florida State. This is going to have to be we're going to have to see real positive movement both on and off the field.
Think about the selection show time slot. Now, it was on ESPN and ACC Network for an hour, and then there was a replay of NFL Live that took over on ESPN2 at 10 o'clock when the ACC Network continued its coverage at 10 p.m.
Mm-hmm.
It's an East Coast league. You got a couple of teams in other time zones. It's an East Coast league. But you go at 9 o'clock on the Deuce. You don't even get ESPN. And you had to wait to start it for 2-3 minutes because women's hoops hadn't wrapped up in the 7 o'clock window. So that's where this league is. Yeah, there's no doubt about that. The question becomes, let's say the ACC settles in a middle ground and 2030 is the year because they want their contract to come up at the same time as the Big Ten's renewal or the SEC's opt-out. I don't think that they agree to a 2030 settlement without guarantees from Florida State and Clemson that they're sticking around. Because if they move that clock up from 2036 to 2030, which ESPN can do whatever it wants here, as much as, Phillips says that they're our partners. If they move up the clock that soon, we should just buy our way out of that. You got 4 years to buy out? That's nothing, man. That's nothing in TV rights. I don't think that's probably the struggle here is they're talking with Florida State, Clemson, North Carolina, because they're continuing to put out little smoke signals here and there that they're not pleased with where they are. Virginia is going to be a hot commodity, I guess. Everybody talks about that.
We'll see. I don't know about that, but
it's because I guess the television footprint, the DMV area. But I would think that you wouldn't go to 2030 and shorten the deal without assurances that those schools are going to stick around for that period of time. That would be the only announcement that I'm thinking could come down over the next few years. But then, to your point, we're stuck for 5 more seasons in the
falling
ACC.
Further and further behind from a financial chasm that I don't know that you have a chance to recover from anytime soon. When you finally do get out, wherever you end up, it's brutal. It's just a brutal situation. I hate to paint this picture. It hit me harder as the day went on. Listen, for people who don't remember, and there's a lot who don't, and I have to remind myself of that. I've been on the air for 27 years covering Florida State, and I used to rail all the time against the Thursday night games that we were forced to play. I hated the Thursday night games. I would constantly point out you didn't see the Michigans of the world playing on a Thursday night. Oklahoma wasn't out there playing on a Thursday night. We were of that. We were bigger. We were more successful and maybe not bigger brands, but certainly within the talking point, like within that group of teams. And yet we were out here stuck on a Thursday night because that's the way it was. We were in the ACC, and this is how it works. You got to play these Thursday night games for more exposure in the ACC. I hated it. I thought it made us look small then. I think it makes us look small now. Friday nights are even worse. Friday nights always reserved for high school. Nobody associates college football with a Friday night. Nobody wants to watch. I shouldn't say nobody. Most people are out doing things on a Friday night before the big weekend games on Saturday. You're more apt to watch a Thursday game than you are a Friday night game. Getting stuck with 2 Friday night games sucks. It's just embarrassing. And then having a 10 o'clock game out at Stanford sucks. It's embarrassing. I feel like we're groveling. It's awful.
Yeah, so, and just as a reminder here, with a lost decade, and then we've had 2 good seasons since 2017, right? Only 2 good seasons. In the last 50 years, Florida State has amassed the 8th most wins in college football, with those ridiculous periods of ineptitude, and one that we're living in right now, because we added 2 wins to the ledger in the last year. Had we added 8 wins last year, we would be all the way at 6th best, 6th most winningest program in the last 50 years of college football if we bothered to go 8-4 last year. And yet, with all that status, and with a league that when we joined it wasn't, inferior to the SEC. They were kind of on the same level.
The SEC wasn't anything close to what it is. Yeah,
no, it was kind of on the same level at the time we joined it, with Alabama winning a national title, Florida being pretty good. But then it was a whole bunch of also-rans, and it was Florida State and, Georgia Tech could be ranked every once in a while, and they had just come off a split title, and North Carolina rose up and back and forth. They were kind of on the same footing, but now we are to this place where you do feel, rightly so. This is, again, if you put on the network executive hat, rightfully so.
Well,
what are you doing? Is Louisville SMU going to do me numbers like Ole Miss and Arkansas? It's not going to do it.
It's sort of a self-fulfilling thing. True, yes, rightfully so. But now the money gap is just going to guarantee that even if you could fight even, you have no chance. Look, it's across all sports now. The SEC is dominant in basketball right now, to the point where Jay Billis the other day is talking about the SEC tournament. It'll be much harder for these SEC teams than the NCAA tournament. Then you talk about the baseball programs in the SEC, which are stacked, and over and over again, you look at the Taj Mahal's stadiums that they're playing in the SEC. So baseball is, there are times during college baseball where you look at the top 20 rankings and there are 9 SEC teams in the top freaking 12. So there you got that. And now, so basketball, they've taken over. The SEC's taken over baseball. And obviously football is them in the Big Ten. We're getting buried. And that's why I feel the weight I can't imagine what the administration feels, what the athletic department feels, what Mike Norvell feels. They cannot F around. We are in dangerous waters. This has got to stop.
We're at a pinch point here, though, where I feel a lot of the things you do, but I resist giving into them in the moment, because I do want to see what announcement, if any, comes down regarding 2036 and the opt-in from ESPN.
Yeah.
It is upon us. Now, it might not be public knowledge, but I would think everybody from, reporters locally in markets like Tallahassee and Clemson, Chapel Hill, to national brands like Yahoo Sports and ESPN, even though they have a conflict of interest, so they can't necessarily engage in that reporting. McMurphy, people want to know what the deal is with the ACC, ESPN, and the television contract. Marchand, because he's a sports media watch guy.
Mm-hmm.
So people are going to be poking around for this information, whether the ACC and ESPN want to release it or not. I would hope in the next 2 to 3 weeks, you're going to understand whether or not ESPN opted in for another 9 years, or if Jim Phillips gave him another 6-month extension. I don't know, but something to that effect. I'm resisting what you're feeling right now, because I want to see that domino first, because maybe it comes down with the way it was reported late last year, which is that there's a deal for higher payouts. It's not what we want, but it's better than what we have now. Higher payouts for everybody to stay the hell in place for 4 or 5 more years. And then when the whole sport reorganizes in 2030 with playoffs back on the table, television deals back on the table, we'll have our place. But we'll see. I do want to know what that detail is if we're going to get it before I start talking about how we're inefficient in this operation. We need to be buttoned up over here, and we need to maximize dollars here, because that's the conversation that comes down if ESPN, for example, was to just say 2036, we're in. Go ahead. You want to challenge that in court? Go for it. At that point, you got real problems.
Well, you may have those problems, and here's the thing: the reason I'm not emboldened and holding out hope for something that would be in our favor at this point is sort of that double talk that we got from Florida State's higher ups most recently with well, we never said we wanted out of the conference. Come on, man. How do you say that with a straight face? We never said we wanted to, we never said we wanted to leave.
Right.
Come on, man.
Yeah, go back and read the transcript. Yeah, I read it. Come on now.
Come on, man. That's crazy. Don't do that. Don't. You're out here saber rattling, and now all of a sudden it's like, oh, well, no. Come on, man.
Well, this was if you were looking to cement Florida State's future, and you were looking to do so by getting it into a conference like this, whether you're the athletic director, the head of the board, the president of the university, trustees, members, everybody who had a microphone or a Zoom mic on their laptop in all of these hearings, you know what you're doing. You're hunting in the best interest of the university. Yes, you're also legacy hunting for yourself. And if you come up empty and you strike out here, that was always the risk that you were willing to take to bring it to the masses. And of course, these things had to be public because of the nature of being a state institution. So you're kind of screwed there, but you chose to do it. You hit the button. And if you strike out, your legacy is that you were hollow.
Yeah, but it's
brought nothing.
We agree on this, and that's fine, but that's going to kill us. I don't care about their legacy, and I care about Florida State, and that's what you care about. And so they'll get to go walk away and take some job at Wofford and do whatever they're going to do. Well, we're screwed, and it is going to be. Listen again. I know I'm going too far the other way right now. I need to calm down. I'm getting concerned. You know what it feels like. I don't know if you've ever been shafted by somebody that you thought you had a deal with, whether it's a business deal, whether it's a contract, yes, right? But where the rubber meets the road, and there's a moment, or somebody owes you money. I'll give you that one. We've all been in this position where it's incredibly uncomfortable because you might like the person, whatever it might be. But have you ever made the mistake of loaning money to a friend? And not a friend that is good, but a guy that you like who's in a little bit of a bind, and the little voice in your head says, don't lend him this money. He's not good for it. He's not good for it. Plus, you're not that close of friends with him, so I don't even know why he's asking you. But the better angels of your nature went out, and you're like, all right, Kyle, I'll give you $1,000.
Kyle.
I may not have $1,000 that I can afford to give you, but I'm going to give you $1,000 because you know what? I'll survive, and you sound like you're in a bad spot, and I want to help out people who are in a bad spot. And the voice in your head's telling you, man, Kyle, you're never going to see that money again, dude. Give him that $1,000 and just know it's gone. And you give it to him, and he tells you he's going to pay you back by February the 1st. And you say, all right, Kyle. And so, there's several months between that time and this time. And so you're waiting, and a month goes by. Kyle's got a brand new set of golf clubs. Oh, what? That's interesting, Kyle. You got new clubs, did you? Oh, okay. Huh. And then a couple weeks go by. You're all out to eat, bunch of people. Kyle's buying around for everybody. Are we, Kyle? Okay. Okay. And the dates are getting closer and closer. And at some point in passing, you're like, hey, Kyle, remember, like we talked about, like the first, man? Yeah, I got you. Okay. All right. Coming up on the 1st. And this is where I'm at. Kyle is not going to give me my money. Florida State's not getting out of this sorry-ass conference. We're stuck. We're going to be $40 million annually behind. The conference is not in a position to be promoted in the manner that would give you a chance, a fighting chance, and now you're buried. You've been led astray. It's what it feels like. It's what it feels like. It feels like this is what we're going to end up having a conversation about.
Yeah, it's the larger version of being stuck in 2-10 or so many of the. We've had to cover too many seasons where we suck, by the way, in the 15 years that we've been doing this.
Yes, agreed.
We've got our doctorate and a second doctorate and an honorary doctorate in covering crappy football teams. I mean, for Florida State, I didn't see this coming. I got here on campus in 2006, and I had big-time visions. And here we are 18 years later, and I think we've had like 6 seasons in which you go, all right, pretty good football team. That's 6. And 12 of them, or maybe another 6 where you go, not so good. Not so good. And then another 6 where you go, well, they might just be the worst at this in the country. How's that possible? But there's a lot of feelings that you have in that moment. I used to call it the straitjacket. You're in the straitjacket. They tied you tight. There is no getting out of the straitjacket. You can sit in that chair and think about how you'd like to be out of the straitjacket, but you're just in here, and you got nothing except you're hugging yourself. That's it. That would be the feeling that you are fighting right now on the grand scale. Not the 2-10 season, not the 4-8 season, the 3-9 season scale, but on the grand scale of empire building, the future of the program. And I hear you, and if we weren't within a week of a big date on the calendar, I would be right there screaming with you. But I do want to see how this last little wave of stuff plays out first.
I'm not even properly, and it's bad for a talk show host to admit this, I'm not even articulating my concerns the right way because I'm holding back. I'm holding back for the reason that you just gave. That, hey, man, let's wait and see what happens next week. Okay. But I don't feel like Kyle's going to pay me my money. That's I'm you right now. I'm telling you right now, I don't feel like Kyle's coming through on that payment.
Oh, dude, we've had collections issues over the years with the radio station, and or perhaps you like to point to this very often, but salespeople who said, "Oh yeah, I've got a meeting next week, big time client coming on board." Well, do you? Mm-hmm. What time's the meeting? 11:30. 11:30. Yeah. Do you want somebody to go with you? Jeff will go with you. I'll go with you.
I'll go. Yeah, sure.
No, I mean, I've got a good relationship with this guy. I think we're all set. We're all set, huh? Mm-hmm. Okay. So you're going to be at the office at what time on Monday after the meeting? Like 1:30, 2 o'clock. Yeah. I feel that. It's possible that could be our reality, but we'll see.
Yeah, the truth is that dude's playing golf at that time, and you're never going to see him after that meeting because there is no effing meeting. Yeah. And this is, by the way, to your point, 2006 when you arrived, we were a robust 7-6 that season and under 500 in the ACC, as you recall. Mm-hmm. And went 7-6 again the following year and finished 500 on the nose in the ACC. Then 9-4, then 7-6. Jimbo Fisher took over at that point because we were stumbling around in the alley.
Yep.
Lost. Fisher comes in. We go 10-4, 6-2 in the ACC, 9-4, 5-3 in the ACC, 12-2, 7-1 in the ACC, 14-0, 8-0, national champions. Undefeated in the ACC, obviously. 13-1, followed by 8-0. That's back-to-back undefeated seasons in the ACC. And here's where we're getting close to what the hell is going on at Florida State. 10-3, 6-2, 10-3, 5-3. Then it's 7-6, 3-5 in the league, 5-7, 3-5 in the league, 6-7, 4-4 in the league, 3-6, 2-6 in the league, 5-7, 4-4 in the league, 10-3, 5-3 in the league, 13-1, 8-0 in the league, 2-10, 1-7 in the league.
Yeah. There's a lot of lean times since I've been here half a lifetime ago.
If you just look at the ACC record, it's really disgusting.
Yeah, it's far too close to 500.
It's ridiculous. This is a butt-sorry league.
Yeah. I was thinking about that the other day. Just in general.
Yeah,
I was.
Was Phil Collins playing?
Yeah, it might have been
now in the background.
Or the Miami Vice theme, whatever, And I'm looking around. I'm thinking, what are we? Since I've been here, because this. Here's why. I'm taking stock of symmetries, and this is a very symmetrical point in my personal life, because I moved here 19 years ago. Okay, and I'm 38 years old, so I'm at the halfway point of my existence on the earth. I moved to Tallahassee, so I'm thinking about what in the second 50% of my life, what has Florida State been? Because in the first 50% of my life, badasses at all times.
Yes.
A top 3 program in the country. The first 19 years I was alive, top 3 program in the country, no question about it. Since that point, top 10, top 15, top 20. Probably top 12. Yeah, that sounds about right. But I mean, that's because we brought home hardware the one time in 2013, and we had another couple of undefeated regular seasons. But it ain't 6th. It ain't 3rd.
No.
And the problem is we've been operating as a program. It's one of the things I'm so proud about with Florida State and its history.
Yes, because we've outkicked our coverage. We've done more with less.
We're not Florida. We don't have endowments left and right. Florida is one of the most inefficient operations when you're talking about wins versus resources in the last 100 years. Compared to us, oh my God, the mileage we get out of every dollar we have, out of every resource we have in the history of our football program is leaps and bounds above what the Florida Gators program is.
Yeah.
However, I would like to get back to doing that again with consistency.
You'd like not to have to be Herculean.
Right. And yes, give us equal money on the annual basis as Florida, and watch what we do relative to them. Because right now, that's what's holding us back. They're always going to have the head start and the endowments and so forth. But if you give us equal TV revenue to them, if you give us equal TV revenue to Auburn and Ole Miss and Tennessee and Georgia.
Obviously, we did. Yes, we did forever. The problem is, though, Tom, now it's almost as if it's about to get way worse. And this is where the number is exceedingly larger than it was in the 90s. This is where it's like, yeah, we were at those disadvantages, but we weren't in an annual hole of $45 to $55 million. Yep. And now you have all of that stuff that the aforementioned fully endowed scholarships that all these other schools have, and money hand over fist with legacy graduates, et cetera, and billionaires contributing left and right. And Florida State has none of that. And then you have now an annual coffer in which you're coming up short by $40+ million. And the perception that you're in a sorry ass 3rd tier league. And oh, by the way, you suck in that league.
Yeah. Well, that's where going 10-2 last year would have helped us with our feelings right now, but it doesn't, because it's gasoline on this particular. Right when you're opening up a stadium and a football-only facility and asking for capital contributions, Bowden societies, visions of excellence, coaches clubs, all of it. You know, people need to be motivated to do those things more so here than in our neighbors. As it's said in these board of trustees calls, our peer institutions. Mm-hmm. You know, we have much like our peers. Where are we? Well, we need to raise more money than our peers do because they got it and we don't. So here we are. Let's hear the good news in the next week that the ACC did not get a full 9-year extension from ESPN. Please God.
Alcohol does not have to be your default anymore. This seems timely per our discussion. America's only USDA organic THC gummy from my folks at Cornbread Hemp. That's right. Check it out for more. Don't just fall back on pounding some beers at night or having one too many glasses of wine. Maybe you want to respite from alcohol for a little while. Well, here you go. You don't have to just get by. You can ease your way through the weekend and through the week if you'd like with America's only USDA organic THC gummy. Real THC, no synthetics, 100% legal hemp, fast and free shipping for my listeners. That's right. Right now, you can save some serious coin. Cornbread Hemp's THC gummies for the Jeff Cameron Show audience, saving 30% on your first order. And to cornbreadhemp.com/warchant. Use code warchant at checkout. That's cornbreadhemp.com/warchant. Code warchant, Cornbread Hemp. This is the good life. Man, if there's not an abundance of evidence that suggests you're in salary cap hell as a Saints fan, just note that every day another coach turns down your job. every effing day. All of them say no. All of them, from fledgling assistant coaches that nobody's ever heard of to high-profile coaches that have been head coaches in the past to you name it. Yeah, I'm good. I'm good. No thanks. No thanks. Don't think I want to be the next head coach of the Saints. And then you would say, but why? That's a passionate fan base. It's a wonderful city if you know where to go. Great food, great cuisine, great people. It's got its problems. Every city does. But all you can really ask for is a passionate group that attends the games, that cares deeply, that has a history. The Saints have all of that. They just don't have a head coach. And maybe they'll get one in the form of Kellen Moore, who's now done a second interview. At least he's given him the common courtesy of coming back for a second interview. So I suppose he might be your next head coach. But, man, I got to tell you, when I saw that Kingsbury said no, and then I saw that not only did Kingsbury say no, but prior to that, Aaron Glenn, who they were trying to get to town, missed a flight to New Orleans because of the snow in in New Orleans. It was also in Baton Rouge for that matter. But then when they rescheduled the flight for the next available landing, he said, no, I'm good. Good. I thought about it a little bit more. The extra day meant that I was good. Also, the Jets are about to give me a call. The Jets are a mess. Now, Aaron Glenn's got ties to the Jets, so I get it. But how does that explain Mike McCarthy, who also said, no, I'm good. I'm going to take a year off. See what is out there following this season. He's getting up there in years. You usually don't take the year off when you have a head coaching offer. Joe Brady, who was your guy who was in New Orleans, former assistant, 2018, 2019, not all that long ago, said, pretty good. I'll stay here at Buffalo, just continue to be the OC. Don't want to be the head coach. There are only 32 of these jobs. Most everybody desires the opportunity, especially people who've never been a head coach before, to get one of these jobs. Even if you don't like the owner, even if you think that maybe the situation is less than ideal, generally speaking, franchises that fire a head coach and are hiring a new head coach are not in a great situation. Hence the reason they fired the previous coach. So you're going to have to take a risk. You're going to have to take a job that maybe is less than ideal. Maybe there are salary cap problems. Maybe you don't have a franchise quarterback, which is kind of important. Maybe you are lacking defensive personnel or are a couple years away from drafting a suitable offensive line, whatever it might be. But the point is you don't have 4 or 5 coaches all in one coaching cycle say, I don't want to go there. Nope, I'm good. And it's because, again, every time you look at it, and I pulled it up again this morning, the Saints are in a salary cap dilemma of their own making. We knew this. It was daunting at the time. We talked about it at the time. It did kind of make me laugh. I went back and forth and said, well, I'm for the anteing up. I'm for the chips to the middle of the table when you have a reasonable chance of winning a Super Bowl. Like when the Bucs went all in, or like back when the Jags went all in, didn't win it, but had a good reason to go all in at that time with a championship level defense. Remember, the byproduct of that is that you're going to be in a cap doom situation, a spiral situation, a situation where you have to re-sign or keep certain levels of talent on your roster because it's cheaper than cutting them, but they're not the best player for the job, but you can't afford the best player for the job. So you're stuck with a group of guys that simply can't win until you can get out from under that doom cap situation. But they're operating in a large deficit, and they have to make decisions under that deficit as to who to keep and who to go after. Meantime, nobody wants to coach their football team. This is amazing. I don't remember seeing, Tom, 4 and 5 different guys go, I'm good. No thanks. Thanks, but no thanks.
Well, that's where, a lot of people that were following the Saints and rooting for the Saints the last 5 to 6 years are saying the cap is fake. You can always work around it. I mean, clearly this is that idea getting burnt to the ground. But it also brings up an interesting talking point, which is now that salaries continue to rise for coordinators, if you're the coordinator of one of the special quarterbacks in the NFL, is that not a better job than being a head coach of a team that you've got to rebuild? It all comes back to motivations, what your personal motivations might be. But here's what I'm thinking. I got a theory. because Monken just re-upped in Baltimore. Brady essentially said, I'm going to stay in Buffalo. Kingsbury said, I'm staying with Jaden Daniels as my quarterback. I think they're all eyeing Kansas City. Andy Reid approaching 70 years old. He'll either retire or perish on the sidelines, but either could happen fairly soon. You never know. And if I'm one of those hot offensive coordinators for one of the league's have organizations, for a Josh Allen or a Jaden Daniels or a Lamar Jackson, and Kansas City comes open in the next 3 or 4 years, would I be in a better position if I'm trying to rebuild a bad organization like the Saints, or not a bad organization, but one that's under it a little bit, under the gun? Or would I be in a better position for the job in Kansas City if I kick ass for the next 3 to 4 years with Jaden Daniels, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson? I might be up for the big one. I might be up for the Kansas City job to get Mahomes for 6 or 7 years. And that is the job I would rather hold out for than take a job where I have to reconstruct things from the ground up.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like if I were Liam Cohen, for example, who just got hired by the Jags and who we spoofed on yesterday for good reason, I would look at a quarterback and say, okay, look, maybe Trevor might be something. We don't know. He's had moments where he looks like something. He certainly has the physical tools, but I feel like I have some weapons and I'd like to get started. I'd like to get my head coaching career started. I also know that you don't know, right? Because CJ Stroud was unimaginably good in year one. And DeMeco Ryans and the Houston, you think about Houston, right? Like they were dead and buried.
Yeah.
But you take a job, you make a draft choice, and you hope like hell it's CJ Stroud. Or you're Washington and you make a draft choice and you hope you win the lottery and Jaden Daniels is the guy. But that's what you do. You got to get some assurances. I think if you take the New Orleans job, you say, now look, you and I both know Spencer Rattler sucks. Who are we kidding? And also your starting quarterback, who's oft injured these days, is not the guy, right? So you're kind of stuck. You don't have a guy. So you know and I know we don't have the guy. So here's what I'm going to ask of you. I got to have real guarantees, man. I mean, this is, I get sorry. I feel like you and I are having a conversation. Sorry. Mm-hmm. I get 4 years here. I get 4 years no matter what. You're not running me out of nothing. So now I have the authority and the safety and, the safety net. I can start making big time decisions and we draft a quarterback. And if after 2 years, I don't see any sign whatsoever that he's going to be any good, we'll draft another one. Probably only get 2. I don't really get 3 or 4, but
Right. No, well, again, if you have the guy, your job security is pretty high for a long period of time. Now, maybe Joe Brady's gunning for the Bills job. Maybe he's saying McDermott's got 1 strike left.
And he never gets stops in the playoffs, so they should think about it.
Right. But they're going to give me more weapons this offseason because we don't have anybody that can separate. God love you, Keon, but you might be a nice 2 or 3. We've got James Cook, and then I need more weapons. So Josh is going to demand that. I'm going to be for it if I'm Joe Brady. We're going to get those weapons. We're going to kick ass again next year. And when we come up short in the playoffs, they're going to fire his ass, and I'm going to be the head man. So I'm going to keep this job rather than try and fix the problems with no cap room to speak of over the next 3 to 4 years in New Orleans. I think I'm in a good spot right here. Kingsbury went on the record and said, being a head coach is overrated, and I'm happy where I am right now because he just got done with that disaster in Arizona. One of his own creation, he's the one who chose Kyler Murray. Nobody told him he had to pick Kyler Murray, but he's got a bitter taste in his mouth, and he'd rather just call plays. Well, again, maybe 3 years down the line, there's an opening with a stud quarterback, or maybe Dan Quinn screws around and goes for it on 4th down too much in the next 2 or 3 seasons. And then I get the quarterback because we're scoring points on the regular. You can make triple your money that you're currently making. Liam Cohen, the math was 5 to 13, I think. Mm-hmm. He was going to get 5 to be the OC. And then I think the Jags are paying him 13. At any rate, you at minimum double your income to become the head coach. But now you've burned a bridge. It's not a great look professionally speaking.
That didn't have to be part of the equation.
No, for sure. But now your reputation is besmirched. And if it fails in 2 or 3 years, you've closed some doors to yourself. Whereas if you're the OC for a stud quarterback and a great offense, man, that's a nice gig. I'm not saying it's as prestigious as one of the 32 head coaching jobs, but it might be better than some of the 32 head coaching jobs.
Well, there have been coaches who've said that before, that, hey, I don't want to be a head coach. I don't want that responsibility. I really enjoy working with the offense or the defense. I really enjoy coordinating those things. I think if you're as young as somebody like Kingsbury, you can sit back and wait on the perfect situation, and that you have a good one right now because you have an elite quarterback. But number two, you could say there's going to be a better job opening here soon than New Orleans, and only better because, again, of the salary cap situation. Look, New Orleans gets a bad rap. I listen, as a competitor within our division, I hope they stink forevermore. But in terms of, if you have money, let's remember, if you have money living in Detroit as the head coach, or New Orleans, or any other area with perceived rough neighborhoods and rough parts of town, well, you're not going there. You're living high on a hill in the nicest place possible. And all cities have wonderful spots and dilapidated spots where anybody would be happy to live, and spots that seem a little sketchy. We got a drug problem over here. Got a bit of a drug issue over here. Yes, that's everywhere. That's Tampa. That's Miami. That's Chicago. That's New York. That's Los Angeles. That's Philadelphia, Dallas, Minneapolis, New Orleans. It's all of them. So these guys aren't like, oh, man, I don't know. There's some sketchy parts to New Orleans. Yeah, there is. There's also some awesome places in New Orleans with incredible art, incredible history, incredible people, incredible music, and the cuisine. Forget about it. No, by the way, I'm the head coach. I'm rich as hell. I'm going to be able to go anywhere I want to go. I won't be floundering about down Bourbon Street and taking a wrong turn somewhere that I shouldn't be. That's not going to be me. I'm going to be set. So I don't think that really factors in. I think now that stadium sucks, and I really wish they would do something about the Superdome. It's awful. But other than that, I mean, it's the salary cap. It's really the salary cap.
Elevation, propensity for natural disasters. How are you going to ensure the new one? You can make things happen at that level. Red tape goes away as long as the taxpayers make sure that they throw down a significant chunk. But I mean, they recently spent a lot of money to redo that place. It continues to get bookings, so it's not like it doesn't, it just sits there.
No, I know. It just sucks. It just, if you go, it feels an awful lot like the old Astrodome in Houston, where you're like, well, this is a piece of garbage.
Which is still standing, I believe.
I don't
understand why that is, but it's every time in the last, I'm sure it still is, when they go to NRG Stadium in Houston for kickoff of the annual Saturday playoff wildcard game, they show the shot, and then there it is. Astrodome is still there.
I don't know why, though. Why wouldn't they have built something much cooler and more, functional? Like, you would say, hey, well, let's make this a row of restaurants and bars and the like. Like, what are we doing here?
Make it the world's largest casino. The Astrodome. That's
cool
casino.
Too. Yeah. They've done wonders, by the way, in the area where Detroit plays baseball. That whole area there is now awesome.
Yeah. That, I don't know if it's the same owner as the Wings owner. It might be that he owned both teams, but yeah, he had this concept for a district that he wanted to put together, and
it's what the St. Pete group is doing with the Rays. This is what the whole thing is going to happen. It's not just the stadium there. Yeah. They're renovating that whole area.
That's what the Battery is in Atlanta, and it works. It certainly does.
Yeah. Come back, wrap it up momentarily. Jeff Cameron Show, 93.3 Real Talk Radio and Warchant TV. And in the final 90 seconds or so, I'll just say, sink your teeth into this. Wrap your arms around this, because it's hilarious. It's also not good, big picture for baseball, but it is funny given the source. I'm going to read you a quote, and then I'm going to tell you who it's from and why. Quote, "It's difficult for most of us owners to be able to do the kinds of things that they're doing." Now, that would be the owner of the New York Yankees. How rich is it to hear from the New York Yankees owner, Hal Steinbrenner, crying poor mouth? The Yankees' payroll is over $300 million. But it's difficult for us owners to be able to do the kinds of things that they're doing in regards to what the Dodgers payroll is. And by the way, the Dodgers payroll is now over $390 million. After taxes, it'll be over $500 million. That's rich, Hal. That's rich. Ain't nobody crying for you. But what I will say is baseball's going to have to figure something out. If you don't have a regional cable channel deal, you're kind of screwed right now. And I would also point out that the Dodgers spending $300 million and franchises like the Pirates or the Marlins or the Rays and others not spending $70 million is a problem for baseball. Good night. Have a great day. Be good. Peace.